Is this not the most quintessential snapshot you've ever seen of the Saskatchewan prairies? Someone actually asked me if this was AI generated, but no, this photo was taken by my dad, who is an amazing photographer. It's a family farm, like a back road at my family farm, and anyone who's grown up in rural Saskatchewan, like me, is probably familiar with why our province is such a great place to have a dog, because you can literally watch it run away for days. I really wanted to open with a dad joke, I'm sorry. But all this to say, I love growing up on the prairies, as it gave me an enormous appreciation for the natural world and all living things in it, and luckily, my dog never did run away. When I was little, everyone was convinced I was going to be a veterinarian because I spent my waking hours with the cats, feeding horses, rescuing injured animals. You can see me there saving a mouse, all while being shadowed by my childhood dog, Sparky. This dog was my best friend. We did absolutely everything together. He would let me dress him up in clothes to do photo shoots. He was always my date for picnics, and he would lay beside me whenever I was sick. We were inseparable. But when I was 7 years old, my parents separated. I had to leave the family farm and move to the city. My mom became a single parent, working extremely long hours to support my sister and I was frequently left alone. Moving from a rural setting to an urban center, losing my friends, my dad, and my home was a massive transition. And as sometimes happens with adverse childhood experiences, this disruption and isolation resulted in a little girl who experienced severe physical and emotional pain because I started to feel like I did not matter to anyone. Mattering is understood as the human need to feel significant in the eyes of others. It's a validated scientific concept that speaks to how individuals need to feel seen, valued, and appreciated. When we feel we matter to others, it means they're interested in us, they care about us, and even depend on us. In our everyday life, it's about having people who will include you, listen to your troubles, and be there when you need support. But I often get asked, how is mattering different than belonging? As Dr. Gordon Flett, who is a global mattering expert, told me, with belonging, you may have a seat at the table, but with mattering, it means you are seen, heard, and understood at that table. So think about a time you texted a friend to make plans. Now think about a time when they didn't follow up, or maybe never responded at all. You likely felt like you were ignored, overlooked, and forgotten, like you didn't matter. In my field, we call this anti-mattering. When we interact with people who are non-responsive in meeting our need to matter, it can lead to social withdrawal and loneliness. These are common responses typically associated with depression, anxiety, and increased responses to physical and emotional pain. Feelings of hopelessness can start to grow because we are disconnected and isolated, which is what happened to me after my parents divorced. Ultimately, mattering is a core need and part of what it means to be human. It signals that we are interested in and will watch out for one another because it is reciprocal and it gives us hope. But what if connecting with others isn't possible or sometimes feels impossible due to past negative experiences? Mattering is not unique to relationships between humans. Animals can play a role too. In 2021, I was the first researcher, to my knowledge, to show that mattering could exist between a human and a dog. Reflecting on my relationship with Sparky inspired my interest in the idea that animals could not only be someone's primary support, but that animals could show someone that they mattered and impact our mental health in ways far more significant than we realize. So I began researching how animals could support people who felt socially anxious, alone, and misunderstood. I learned that some people can feel so insignificant that they cannot fathom interactions with other humans because they'd been so repeatedly hurt, ignored, or let down, often to the point of wanting to end their life. And this is important because my research specialization is in suicide. Since 2016, I've worked on numerous suicide prevention projects with Indigenous youth, military veterans, and people living with addictions and chronic pain. I chose to attend university after the loss of one of my closest friends to suicide. I wanted to find solutions that would make people realize that they mattered and that life was worth living. And what I began to find was a common thread. Research participants told me through their stories that despite their pain, their suffering was manageable because of their dog or their rabbit or their horse, and sometimes, weirdly enough, even their cat. I don't know. My point was that the species is irrelevant. It came down to the connection and sense of mattering that they had developed with an animal. So evidence has shown that human-animal connections are entirely different from what one human can experience with another. It can present as the purest form of love and acceptance because it doesn't come with confusion or ego or conditions. Anyone here who's had a relationship with a pet knows that when you are chosen by an animal, it feels unconditional and may be the strongest bond you'll ever know. So through my work in the Positive Connections Lab, I've witnessed animals providing unwavering support to those suffering. As a PhD candidate, I'm still trying to fully figure this out, so please stay tuned for my dissertation, which is out this summer. But what I do know is that when it comes to experiences of pain, whether that's emotional or physical, animals have an uncanny ability to get you out of your head and distract you from that pain. They help you to be fully present, and there is no question that they care about you and you matter to them in those interactions. Scientifically, it's even been shown that stroking an animal can cause cortisol, our stress hormone, to drop, and oxytocin, which is our love hormone, to increase. Heart rate slower, breathing stabilizes, and that's not just for the humans, but for the animals too. We can influence the physiology of one another because we act as co-regulators for each other's nervous system due to this innate connection that we have. Animals, quite simply, improve health outcomes because they can calm our nerves and stabilize our vital signs when we feel stressed, which is so important for people living with pain. And I understand a lot of folks have allergies. I get that. But there's always the option of a hypoallergenic pet, or you can get many of these same benefits from simply being in the great outdoors, connecting with nature. You can also get it from watching videos of animals. I'm sure many of us are familiar with Grumpy Cat or fainting goats from scrolling social media, and I have no doubt that made you feel better. So I've also worked with Canadian veterans living with PTSD and substance use who have service dogs specially trained to assist them with daily living challenges like pain, anxiety, and depression. I discovered that the relationship veterans have with their dogs gave them not only a sense of purpose, but also a reason to have hope. This was a direct catalyst in protecting against suicide. The relationship they had with these dogs instilled a sense of mattering that had been lost when they ended active service and returned to civilian life. They felt they could connect with their dog in a way they were unable to with other humans. One of my most meaningful research stories to this day is from a veteran who wanted to end his life. However, he decided he couldn't go through with it because he didn't want to leave his dog behind. He said, "My dog saved me." He explained that if he had died, leaving the dog behind would devastate her. The dog wouldn't know what to do without him and would always be looking for him because they depended on each other and had such a strong bond based in mattering. In my most recent study at a hospital here in Saskatoon, I took therapy dogs in to visit with patients experiencing active suicidality in the psychiatric wing of the emergency department just down the hallway from here. Following a brief 20-minute visit with a dog they had only just met, patients told me it made them feel like they were cared for and supported, like they mattered. They explained the dog visitation helped fill a void they were experiencing in a system that at times could not be responsive to their need to matter. Institutions like hospitals and universities can help promote a sense of mattering through their actions and policies, but they don't always have the time and resources to do so, which is why animal-assisted services can be so beneficial. My dog, Zola, is one of these therapy dogs. Zola's volunteer job is in providing comfort and support, and some of you probably already met her today. She has an amazing ability to build rapid connections and has over 200 hours in community service experience. I'm very proud of her, very proud dog mom. She visits child and youth patients on a mental health ward and families at Ronald McDonald House. When Zola and I go for visits as a team, it never ceases to amaze me how quickly people connect with her. She immediately makes that person her entire world because she takes an active interest in them, which facilitates mattering. As a therapy dog handler, getting to witness how someone's not only entire day, but their entire life seems to change in an instant after they interact with a happy dog has been life-altering. It's incredible to witness a patient who has been alone in an isolated hospital room for over 12 hours with no will to live, then have a complete turnaround when the dog shows up. One of our patients, a young gentleman who had been waiting in the emergency for hours, got to meet one of our resident therapy dogs, Molly. And he told me, "I was so relieved to be able to connect with someone emotionally. It was better than any medicine you could have given me." And to me, that exemplifies how mattering is medicine. So I've come to see, both personally and professionally, that animals are a lifeline through our most dark and painful moments. And at times, they can also be life-saving. But I bet there's one thing looming for you all right now. What happened to Sparky? When I moved to the city, my dad let Sparky come with me instead of staying on the family farm. So I had him from ages 3 to 16. I believe that my dad recognized this dog was the one anchor I had through a very painful transition, which was true, because the one thing I remember clear as day was that whenever I felt completely alone or overwhelmed, my canine best friend would come and sit with me and remind me in his own way that things would be okay. Sparky was my constant support who showed me that I mattered. So as someone who has felt truly saved by the relationship I've had with Sparky and Zola and Ivan and Mojo and Marcus and all my other past pets, I know that human-animal connections can be exceptionally powerful. Even when we are experiencing pain, they can facilitate connection, compassion, love, purpose, and hope, which are key elements in recovery from pain and distress. It's essential to acknowledge also, though, that not all human-dog relationships come without challenges, particularly when we lose a pet. But animals should be actively considered and integrated into care practices and policies, as in many cases, a pet can be someone's primary or only support through some of the most deeply painful and isolating parts of human existence. And given all that animals can do for us, their welfare must also be paramount. We need to pay respect to the reciprocal nature of this connection, particularly as it exists to promote improved well-being for animals, humans, and the environment. Our society has become increasingly disconnected and asocial. As journalist Jennifer Wallace has said in conversation with Oprah, yes, like that Oprah, the episode literally just came out this past Tuesday, Jennifer tells her that we are starved of mattering in this world, and there is no greater calling than showing others that they matter. And dogs, they just happen to do this very naturally. So recognizing the significance of this connection is only one small piece of our individual and societal need to reconnect with the natural world and each other, as this relationship can be the only thing that gets someone out of bed in the morning. And it's also a reminder, even to me, with having Zola here today, that there's always going to be a tail wag to show us that we matter. Good girl. Let's go. Come on.